of having these arguments aired, because this case, the fact is that this case is an attack on journalism, it's an attack on the public's right to know, and it should never have been brought. Julian should never have spent a single day in prison. But today we celebrate, because today Julian is free.
We'll take 10 minutes of questions. Just address them to the individual, and I'll tell you when we're out last 3 or so.
I think the first question is Robertson. The return of Julian Assange has revived this huge debate about whether his activities were right or wrong. And we've seen political figures in the US and in Australia here say that he's no hero, that his disclosures put lives at risk. Some Democrats don't like the disclosures about Hillary Clinton, for instance. What's your response to this sort of fundamental argument that's been made against Julian Assange, that he put lives at risk, for instance, and that his disclosures were not in the public interest?
Well, to start with, there's no evidence of any actual harm, and that's exactly what the US government acknowledged in court today in Saipan. So there is no evidence that anyone was physically harmed as a result of those publications. The public interest in those publications is clear. Evidence of war crimes, that the US had not disclosed the extent of civilian casualties in Iraq and Afghanistan, the use of torture and other forms of human rights abuse around the world. There is no denying the public interest in WikiLeaks publications, which is reflected in the reasons why WikiLeaks has won the Walkley Award for Most Outstanding Contribution to Journalism, the Sydney Peace Prize, the fact that Julian's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize every year since those publications. So to suggest that this was not in the public interest, I don't understand the basis upon which they could possibly suggest that. And so I think this is clear.
Stella, can we have a question for you? That moment on the tarmac where you embraced Julian, it must have been incredibly surreal. Was that the moment you realised that this was over to inside?
Yes, I was overcome by emotion when I first heard that there were crowds cheering that I didn't even know were there behind a fence because it was dark. And then I heard them cheer more and more and flashes, and then I turned the corner and then I saw that Julian was coming, and we embraced. And I mean, I think you've seen the pictures. I don't want to express in words what is obvious from the image.
Stella, how comes next between Assange was revitalised and he needs to pursue a career in politics, and what happens, what's next?
Julian needs time to recover, to get used to freedom. Someone told me yesterday who had been through something similar that freedom comes slowly, and I want Julian to have that space to rediscover freedom slowly and quickly.
Jen, as one of my colleagues mentioned the Podesta files earlier, I think he may not have read them. Could you, now you have the opportunity, just remind us of how they actually reformed the DNC and the corruption within? The Podesta files were really good for the Democratic National Congress, yes?
Look, there's clearly public interest in the DNC materials that was released by WikiLeaks, and in terms of the legality of those publications, there's a US court decision showing that it had the highest possible protection of the First Amendment. So from a